Hi, guys. Well, I'm going to have to start with saying when I started this podcast on my 60th birthday, digging through Dominoes, I really had no idea what it was going to do to me personally. I wanted to help people with everything I have been through, to talk about mental illness, homeless children, getting through, learning narcissistic abuse, childhood trauma. But what happened when I brought all those up? I was going and going and going. And after the last episode I posted, I pretty much crashed. Took last year off and traveled a lot. I was trying to come to terms with a lot of the things that started bubbling up inside of me. And at that point in my life, I realized I needed to listen to my body. I needed to listen to what was coming out emotionally and spiritually and in every way. So I didn't go through any sort of a crash again. So I began to travel a lot. I was working on several photo books. As I was working on the photo books, I came across some writings that my attorney had me do in 2007 when my motorcycle was hit and totaled with me on it by a woman that was texting with grandkids in her car jumping up and down. Whoa. I'm going to read that, and I am going to put some pictures in of what happened to my motorcycle, a little bit of me, what her car looked like. And I have to tell you, I don't remember any of it, maybe very small flashes. I've come to realize that the only thing I remember of that day are things I have written or from photographs. When I was first hit, we didn't know I was hurt as badly as I was. It turned out that I had a traumatic brain injury, which started off, if you think about it, those of you who know me, 2007 was a very pivotal year for me. My father died and I lost it. My mother had died the year before. 2007, my dad died. He died after I was hit. And then I had no one, and everything just sort of compounded. And I think a lot of it had to do with the traumatic brain injury for my severe personality change. You know, it's weird. It's weird to sit here 62 years old and start thinking back on something that happened almost 20 years ago. And I'm just now able to put some pieces together. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say just now. I've put a lot of pieces together through the years, but this was something that just really hit me out of the blue. And so I'm going to read that to you. And as I said, I'm going to read that and something else just to give you kind of an idea of what was going on and how I was feeling. And maybe you can see, as it dawned on me when I was going through all of this, that was really the start of the downfall for me. That was when I started cutting, and that is why I have tattoo sleeves. That is not anything I would have ever admitted, but my gosh, it's not anything I intended to do. That's another session altogether because it's a very surreal experience. But a lot of things started with my parents dying and this motorcycle crash and the traumatic brain injury. And those of you that do know me, it was like a different person came out. And it was not anyone that I would want to be friends with. And I was not anyone at that time that, if it were me today, that I would want to be hanging out with. A lot of people told me that they noticed a lot of signs. I couldn't see them. It was almost as if, well, I was disassociated, but it was kind of like watching a play, which is disassociation, basically. And I had no control over what was going on because I couldn't connect what was happening to me. And that's really not an excuse for everything that went on, but it's a reason for everything that happened. Or I should say most that happened. Let me pull these up. Oh, I did that and it just disappeared. This was going to be our first big trip with my new motorcycle. My gosh, look at my hair. It's gone all freaky here. I was so excited. On the spur of the moment, we decided that we would take 4 days and go to Napa Valley. We would go to Crescent City first and then through the redwoods and then end up on the sweeping, beautiful roads of Napa Valley in wine country. Everything was packed. The bikes were washed and ready. Our first stop was at the Harley dealership. Jeff wanted to get some new road glasses, and of course I found a shirt that, I had to have. And we were there talking for a bit with a salesman who pretty much became like family at that point when it was still a family-owned Harley dealership. The day, there's only one thing I really remember about the day, and it was hot. The day was hot, warm. It was it was a beautiful day for being that early, or well, for being in May. In Oregon, you never know what you're going to get. So from here on, I'm going to read, and I might comment on some of it. Our first stop was at the Harley dealership. Jeff wanted to get some new road glasses, and of course, I found a shirt that I had to have, or we were there a while talking to everyone before we rolled out. The day was beautiful, the sun was warm and bright, and we were ready for a wonderful mini vacay on the road. I don't even remember being at the dealership. I know I was there because I've read it. I've read the reports, but I have no memory of being at the dealership that day. As we entered the highway and got the trip underway, I looked over at Jeff and he looked at me. We were both smiling and enjoying thoughts of the days to come. We made the turn onto I-205 and saw that traffic was backed up and slowing. And that stretch of 205, it's beautiful. You're overlooking the Willamette River. There are hills, there are valleys. It's beautiful. The Willamette River is to the south and a bluff is to the north. All the trees are tall and dense, so it wasn't really bad being stopped there. We had just passed, for those of you that know the I-205, I-5 area here in Oregon, we had just passed the 10th Street exit, and once again, traffic slowed, and it came to a standstill. I was watching the car in front of me when suddenly my bike flew forward, and I saw pieces of the rear turn signal fly past me. I was thrown forward, and then I hit the highway. I remember trying to hit in a way as to minimize injury. It seemed like forever, and it seemed like seconds. I was on the ground and unable to move. I knew enough not to move my head, so I couldn't see what I was looking for, my husband and my motorcycle. I remember thinking that if traffic had been going faster, I would have been run over. Then I saw Jeff and another man. They were talking to me, even though I couldn't think. I don't remember understanding them. It was so surreal. People were moving and speaking. Voices were floating around me, but nothing was in sync. Traumatic brain injury. I asked Jeff to call 911. I told him my leg was broken. I asked him to call the kids and to call my dad. There was a woman. She was an ICU nurse. She came from nowhere and was at my head. A silver convertible stopped, and a man came toward us. He was a doctor. God was with me. Still, I heard no sirens, and it was freaking me out. Where were they? I was laying in the middle of a highway. Why was no one stopping traffic? Okay, if you see me having a hard time reading this, it's because I am having a difficult time reading this. I don't have the emotional memory, I don't think. Somewhere it's buried, but my body very much remembers what happened. And a man came toward us. He was a doctor. God was with me. Still, I heard no sirens, and I was lying in the middle of the highway. Where were they? Was anyone stopping traffic? Was I going to be run over? Suddenly, people were all around me. Everyone was asking if I had been wearing a helmet, and I thought, that's a funny question. It's Oregon law, and I'm not that stupid. Of course I was wearing a helmet. That's what I was thinking. I didn't remember that my helmet had already been removed. Where was my bike? Was it okay? Where was my husband? I want my dad. Who in the hell hit me, and where were they? Why weren't they there? My foot was hurting badly from my ankle to my hip, and I knew it was broken. Then I saw this guy with Smith & Wesson glasses. He had great hair. How did I notice that out of everything? He had great hair. Where was I? I think he was an EMT, maybe. Then I saw a state trooper. His shirt said canine unit, but where was his dog? Is someone stopping traffic? I want my mom. I can't have my mom. She died 10 months ago. I want my dad. Please don't let a car hit me. You have to remember, I wrote this the day after I was hit. I think some of it that evening. I had called my attorney and he said, start writing. So what was fresh in my mind then has faded with the injury. Then I saw a state trooper. His shirt said canine unit. Where was his dog? Is someone stopping traffic? I want my mom, but I can't have my mom because she died 10 months ago. I want my dad. Please don't let a car hit me. A man showed up with a collar and put it around my neck. I was now on my back and I was so sleepy. I just wanted sleep. I closed my eyes. Someone kissed me. Someone with a mustache. I opened my eyes and there were 3 men above me, and I was looking at them trying to figure out who had kissed me. They must have seen the confusion in my eyes because one of them said, "That was your husband. We don't offer that service." That's pretty funny that he said that. I remember thinking that it was too bad because these guys are pretty hot. Okay, brain injury right there. They got me on a board and I was put in the ambulance. My first thought was my mother had been in an ambulance the morning she had died. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to sleep. They gave me oxygen. I can remember looking at the eyes of the EMT above me. They were beautiful and golden. I don't think I've ever seen eyes that color. I could hear a woman, but I couldn't see her. I just wanted to sleep, but they wouldn't let me. My sense of time was still off. I felt I had been in the ambulance for hours, while at the same time it seemed only seconds. We were at the hospital and in a room. My mom had died in the ED. I couldn't breathe. Panic was setting in. The room was spinning. It was closing in on me. I began to cry uncontrollably. I want my mom. I want my dad. Where is my husband? All of these thoughts going through my mind. And the nurse gave me an Ativan, and eventually I calmed. More questions were coming at me from every direction, and the lights were so bright. My arm was hurting. My leg was throbbing. More medicine was put in my IV, and the pain eased. A man named Juan came and got me for x-rays. He was a very nice, older gentleman, very sweet and very caring. 2 ladies took my x-rays, and I was back in my room. I don't remember how I got back, but I was back. I just wanted to sleep. Another sign of a traumatic brain injury there. The doctor came in. I remember thinking that he looked like he was a liberal. Oh my God. What does that even mean? He was about my age, nice looking, with salt and pepper hair, and very rushed. Nothing was broken, only sprained, he said. Yeah, right, I thought. Dude, you need to look again. The pain was so bad. I can't move my toes. I cannot move my foot. I can't move my leg. And I had been so worried about having surgery, not because of the surgery itself, but because just before the woman hit me, Jeff and I had McDonald's. I never eat that crap, but it was close and we had a long ride ahead of us. So I had a quarter pounder. I didn't want to see that quarterback. I didn't want to see that quarter pounder again after surgery. Thank goodness there would be no surgery. So I began to wonder how I was going to get home. I finally got to sleep. Jeff took his bike home and brought the Jaguar that I had bought from my dad after my mother died to pick me up. The trip was over. There would be no Napa. So there is that part of what happened. And I'll add a little bit into it that I do remember being told. The woman that hit me did not get out of her car. There was, I guess, a motorcycle cop that came up and was very angry that she wouldn't give a statement or get out of her car. And he had to threaten to arrest her to get out of her car and give a statement. You know, even today when I go past, and this has been since 2007, so what is that, 17, almost 18 years? That stretch of highway, I get physically sick on. And it took me probably a year to figure out why I felt so nauseated and sick, why my arm was burning when I went past that exit. But it was my body remembering everything that had gone on. And it was a horrible situation. All right, so that's the end of that. Let me see. What is this one? Okay, I wrote this one on June 13th, and I had been hit, I think, May 27th. The better I feel physically, the more angry I become. Last night, for the first time, I really listened to Jeff as he told the entire story of what happened. As he spoke, I could envision what was happening. I was reliving it. My body felt the jarring hit, the resulting confusion and pain. I felt as though I was going to vomit. My chest was tight and I began to cry. In an instant, I was back on the highway. I could feel the heat of the asphalt on my skin. My leg and my hip were hurting, and my breathing became labored. I was watching Jeff speak, and while my eyes were on him, I was seeing the accident. I'm so glad I can't remember it now. I once again saw parts of my motorcycle fly past my face. The confusion of what was happening filled my senses, and I began to panic. I was frozen in the past, not moving, but feeling and experiencing everything once more. This time was more intense. The first time, I'm not sure what I'm talking about there. The first time I believed that I had been filled with adrenaline. This time I was filled with fear. My head began to hurt, and I could smell the highway. I could feel road debris under my left arm, and my right foot was really tight. I had to remind myself that there was a nurse there. I can't remember her face. See, this is garbled. I haven't read this for so long. This is really garbled. Although I could feel and smell parts of the accident, it was really difficult to recall other aspects. I had to remind myself that there was a nurse there. I can't remember her face or her name. I believe that she was with a legacy hospital. I remember the canine cop and the EMT with the great hair. I guess he made an impression. But now there are no faces, and voices are detached. They were swirling around me as if they were disembodied. Although I remember being thrown forward with my bike, this is not me writing this. I don't write this badly. Although I remember being thrown forward with my bike, it seems I do not remember the fall or landing. For some reason, that seems strange to me. Suddenly, Jeff calls my name. Okay, I'm in a flashback. That's why this is weird. Suddenly, Jeff calls my name. Teri, are you okay? That broke the flashback. I was in a flashback. That broke the flash, and I began to feel the hot streams of tears that were falling from my eyes and down my face. I looked at Jeff and I saw him, and I began to sob. Like at the accident site, I remember crying and crying. I am not sure if I cried so much since my baby grandson and my mother had died. After a few minutes, I was better. I was transported back to the living room from my flashback. I was still having chest tightness, labored breathing, and I felt very nauseous. I found a lorazepam and took the whole tablet. Within minutes, I was calmer. So I was having a lot of flashbacks at that time, apparently. I try not to listen when Jeff tells the story, and I try to think of something else or leave the room if I can. When he tells it, it's so much more real than when I do. When the subject comes up, I avoid telling the story. I say I was in a car accident, and that pretty much ends the conversation. Sometimes, however, I will tell what happened. I'm not sure if I'm trying to make myself understand what happened, or maybe just want to see the shock on people's faces. What is that even about? What is that about? I really don't care to shock people, but sometimes I just seem to be driven to talk about it. Maybe I'm trying to process what happened. I think I may also do it to see their reaction, and if their reaction would be the same as mine when I heard that woman hit me, never asked how I was, and never got out of her car. She was on the phone with her attorney. I remember thinking, did she call 911? Did she care? Are there other dangers? And what about the little kids that I heard were with her? Are they going to be okay? Has she even thought one more second what she caused and how horrible this could have gone? I could have 8 motherless children and 11 children without a grandmother. You know, it's like being robbed. You can't believe what happened. You can't believe what really happened. That some other person had so little value for your possessions. See, this is not making sense to me. You can't believe what happened, what really happened. That some other person had so little value for your possessions, and in this case for my life or well-being, that she couldn't even ask how I was or if she could call for help. I'm still in shock and getting angrier by the day, when I guess I should pity someone that has that little human compassion in their life. It must be a sad existence indeed. Let me read These are the following days. So you see, I'm disoriented. Even with writing this, I am so disoriented. It's not making any memories come forward. I think those are blocked. Could have been the painkillers I was on. It could have been just because I was in a freaking accident and had a traumatic brain injury. My brain was swelling. And I don't remember. I think that was June 13th. So this is June 15th. I can sense myself spiraling downward. The feeling is one of helplessness and terror, one of falling headlong into an abyss. My gosh. I was foreshadowing, it seems, what was about to come. The grip that I had been exerting to stop the free fall has somewhat been loosened. My strength has been exhausted, and my will to summon it has vanished. Waiting for me in that beckoning darkness is not the black dog that nipped at the heels of Winston Churchill, but large, scaly hands with thick, curved talons from which escape is not possible. The thought of being pierced by their razor-sharp claws is enticing. That would awaken one of my senses. I would feel something. The pain caused by the wound would assure me that my capability to feel has not ceased. So yeah, that is when a lot of stuff started happening for me that I had to go through before I could completely break and come back to being a somewhat normal person. And I think the person I was meant to be. Okay, January 7th. I've tried for weeks to be optimistic. I'm going to be okay. Oh, my punctuation is all off on this. I'm going to be okay. I've said cheerfully to all that have asked about the incident. The truth is, it seems my spirit is broken, with my wings clipped and the pain ever present. My stamina has vaporized and my will has dissolved. Last night, my solace was found in a wonderfully strong carafe of homemade sangria. I'm not usually a consumer of bottled intoxicants. However, last night, the numbing effect of the fruity concoction was not only welcome, but invited. The pain was gone, and for a few hours, my situation lightened. Whoa. So we have July the 8th. It's been days since I've put my feelings down. I tend to write more when I feel there's no way out. The rope is fraying, and my drop seems imminent. I realize that I will be able to find another angle on which to grab, but at times it seems hopeless. The anger I have had held so tightly in my soul for weeks came spewing forth. It was like hot, molten rock permeated with sulfur that was being emitted from a deep crevice within the core of Hades. I was either looped or on drugs. This time my children felt the scorching heat as toxins were discharged in every direction. Yes, they had deserved the wrath of their mother, but not the venom that has saturated my soul since my injury. That's heartbreaking for me to read. After the earth-shaking eruption, I dragged myself out of the destruction and back into my bedroom that had once been my haven and now had become my prison. The tears that followed stung my eyes and saturated my clothing. The blade was calling me. Its cold, sharp edges was now a thought that was quickly becoming reality. I filled the bathtub with deep, hot water and dropped in stems of lavender, one by one, watching them be pulled under by the current. Watching their inability to stay afloat was strangely soothing. The aroma of the purple flowers infused the steamy air and began to calm my soul. It was not the calmness of peace, but it was the calm that follows when a decision has been made. I was being called, and I knew the outcome would be final. Thank goodness it wasn't, although there were a lot of times it almost was. There was a knock at the door that jarred me from my trance-like state. My grandson had brought me more lavender for my bath. I looked into his eyes and recognized the look of confusion and uncertainty. It was the look I have seen several times in the mirror. I heard the small, quiet voice remind me that God is not the author of confusion. Suddenly, I was transported from the doom I had heard beckoning my soul to the destruction that would befall my grandchildren and children should the temptation win. With my thanks for his thoughtful gift and a kiss on his small, warm forehead, I knew that this too would pass. There would be a day again soon that joy would conquer the pain and happiness would reign triumphant. Okay, I think that's the end of that part. Now, this is something else entirely, but I wanted to read parts of this. And this is from a daughter that I no longer know. And I guess this is appearing to be before the accident and she came over to my house. Ever since my mom told me that she was planning the trip, I was very uneasy about the whole thing. I thought that I could breathe through my anxiety and they would come home safely, like they always do. But this time something was just different. I was terrified for them to leave. As they headed to their house, I reminded myself that they were going to be okay. I walked in their house and all my senses were instantly bombarded with pure chaos. The dog was barking. Mom was yelling at a credit card company while pacing around the island. Coco was playing pirates and the cats were chasing each other up and down the stairs. And Dad was acting like he was calm and was packing. I reminded myself to calm down because I couldn't let them know I was so worried. I walked around the house trying to avoid all eye contact and any emotional conversation. Little did I know that my very wise father saw through me. He asked and asked what was wrong with me, and I refused to tell him. He finally gave up and they were on their way. He finally gave up when they were leaving, and it just said that he would pray for me. I watched them pull away on their bikes, and it took everything inside of me not to break into tears. I couldn't let my brothers and sister know that I was scared. I went about the day doing work for my parents' business, getting coffee, and taking kids to the gym. I was now on my way back to their house after dropping someone off, and my phone rang. It was my dad. I answered the phone, and he said, "Alex, we have a problem." And I thought to myself, "You idiots, did you run out of gas again?" Yeah, that happened. "Alex." "Yeah, Dad." "Your mom was hit by a car." My world stopped in an instant. For 3 seconds, about 100 million thoughts ran through my head all at once. I told her she shouldn't ride alone. Wait, this wasn't her fault. I was right. Why did I not insist that they stay home? This is my fault. Is she hurting? Was she in pain? What is Jacob going to do? Josiah won't remember her. Is she with Isaiah? Why? She gets to be with her mom. So I guess what's happening is when her dad called her to let her know, she was thinking that I was dead. I'm trying to read through this and it's really difficult. What is Jacob going to do? Josiah won't remember her. Is she with Isaiah now? Why? She gets to be with her mom. I want my mom. I want to die. Why is my life so shitty? My poor dad. Wait, poor me. No, poor Jacob. My head hurts. My stomach hurts. I'm going to faint. I can't breathe. What do I tell Papa? Poor Papa. I'm never going to be able to see her again. Then I smelled her smell and I heard her laugh. Our whole lives together instantly flashed before my eyes. My eyes welled up with tears and I choked on my own breath. Carly, she's going to be okay. She just broke her leg. I will never forget that day. I will never forget today, the day I thought I had lost my mother forever. Yes, she only hurt her leg, but in those 3 seconds, I felt more anguish than I have ever felt in my life. I praise God that she's okay. I praise God for reminding me just how important she is to me. I thank Him for times like today when you realize how special this life He gave us is and just how quickly it can be taken away. I love you, Mom. You're my best friend, my hero, my strength. I love you. So that was kind of hard to read because I no longer have a relationship with this daughter, which is sad, but it's something that has to be. But I wanted to read that to you because in thinking why I needed to take a break from this podcast and just travel and get away, and then coming back, going through hard drives and finding this, it all fit together of when things pivoted for me. You know, I held it together pretty much through the death of my mom. I held it together mostly through the death of my dad, through the death of my grandson, through what happened to Josiah. And then I'm hit by this motorcycle of a woman that didn't care. And this is a lot. I don't remember any of this. I don't remember any of what I just spoke of the words that I had written. I don't remember it. It's nice seeing what my daughter felt at that moment. I love her so much. But like I said, I didn't realize when I started this podcast, I was going to be opening up wounds and sores. Maybe I did subconsciously because I was hoping for healing. So that's been almost 18 years ago. And when I started this podcast, it opened, like I said, all these other wounds. Forgive me for my voice. I am having a horrible allergy attack right now. It opens so many wounds. it made me think of so many things, and it made me realize, I couldn't really at the time understand. I thought I knew why I had broken, and that's a very valid point, and I think a lot of it has to do with that. But I think a lot of why I spiraled down had to do with the traumatic brain injury that I was dealing with. I reached out to my aunt the other day. I've been thinking about her a lot. She's the oldest sister that's alive, and I miss her so much. And we had a really pleasant exchange of messages. I had a surprise phone call a couple of years ago, and I was reunited with my uncle. And I've been trying to go down to Texas several times a year to make sure that I see him as much as I can. But when I read that and I think of who I became afterwards and the fact that I was drinking sangria, it shows me I don't know that person. I don't remember that person. I do remember a lot of the hell that came forth after that. I do remember spiraling out of control. I do remember becoming someone that I didn't know and I didn't like. And when I think back on things that I can remember and very poor choices that I made, I'm embarrassed. And I'm thankful my parents were not here to see it. One of the things I've realized, though, when I think back on everything, is how it forced me to become more strong, how it forced me to really sit back and look at what had happened to me, think about it, meditate on it, and make decisions. One of those decisions has been to put up boundaries, too many boundaries, as a matter of fact, because at that time, everything in my world was poison, and I wasn't sure what I could do or what I couldn't. I was lashing out. People were lashing back. It was a time of chaos, and I don't have that chaos anymore. I have a good life. Things will stop me, and I have to process. But, I can't help but wonder, where would I have been had I not had that traumatic brain injury that really led to me lighting myself on fire and burning into ash and having to claw my way back to an existence, one that I can be proud of, one that I'm not ashamed of. It's been a long time. I really don't know what else to say right now. I need to get back to doing my podcast regularly. I know I have a lot of topics that I want to touch base on, but for some reason today, when I found those writings on the hard drive, I really knew I needed to speak. I needed to tell the story. I need to hear it for myself. And there are a lot of people out there that knew me and saw me and watched what happened to me. They need to know what happened to me. And I'm still confused that I'm just now putting this together, because at that point in time, my memories are not cohesive. They're not chronological. I know that things happen, but I can't really, if I don't see a calendar or someone does not tell me, I can't put the events in a chronological order. I guess one of the good things or the positive things that came from this is I've become who I'm supposed to be. And I like myself. I didn't like myself for a long time. I like myself. I'm fine with being alone. As a matter of fact, I would prefer to travel alone. And I do. Most of the time I do. I travel alone. I have come to enjoy my own company. I miss certain aspects of my past, or people, I guess I should say. I don't miss who I became, but I'm grateful for it, because had I not had that opportunity to crash and burn and choose whether or not, literally, if I was going to become an alcoholic like my father, or if I was going to go the other way. And it took years for everything to process. And my gosh, right now you're seeing a lot of processing happening right now with me, because I'm finally getting it. I'm finally getting it. Another good thing that came out of that, another great thing that came out of that was, I couldn't walk for 6 months, and I had a totaled Harley. My dad and I, before he died, my dad died in September of that year. My dad and I strategized on how to customize my motorcycle. The first thing I wanted were Vance and Hines pipes. My dad wanted a color scheme that would be seen. And we worked together on coming up with a bike that I love so much. It's so much more personal to me now than it was then. It tells my story. I've also come to realize that I need to tell. I've been asked several times for people are asking me to do a tattoo tour or a tattoo story. I found a lot of pictures, and basically my tattoos are therapy, they're trauma. Would I do it today? I don't know. I don't know if I would, but they got me through some really ugly, bad days. So I have an appointment coming up in 3 minutes. I'm going to say goodbye. Like I said, leave comments, ask questions, get in touch with me if you want to. And I hope I'll be back next week with on another topic, maybe tattoos, maybe something else. You guys have a really wonderful weekend, and I will see you. I will see you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for spending this time with me. It means more than you have any clue. That didn't make sense. It means more than you know. Thank you.